Yo, good afternoon. Happy Saturday, my friends, family, and I'm sure some foes. So let me do this, man, because it's just, to me, it's the audacity of some of the people in our community claiming to be about liberation, claiming to be about higher standards. Always got smoke for other people, but don't have any receipts of actually doing anything that is benefiting our community. And it gets kind of deep. So check it out. I know a few people's been hitting me up. They've been wanting me to do the part 2 of the COINTELPRO here and now. We can kind of call this a part 1B. And if I have time later, today or even tomorrow, I'll go live just so we can wrap up the COINTELPRO here and now. That way at least we laid a framework to understand exactly how COINTEL works in the 2000s, because it's really not any different than it worked then, except for technology has just caught up and allowed people to interact and contribute to agentry in a way that it wasn't possible before. So of course today we're going to be talking about GS, as some call them, Grand Shenanigan, Grand Shameless, because this dude is shameless. So I'm gonna pull up some of this stuff, man, and we're just gonna go through it, talk through it, look through it. Let's start it off. Let's go. Hold up. Let's do it like that. Then let's get it over here. Nope, let's get it over there. Let's go.
Press 7 if you can hear me good. If you can hear me good, press 7. All right. So listen, it's time to really hold these people accountable. And what I mean is this. Do we really want to? So listen, you know what I've realized? One of the things that I've realized from doing this presentation or this series on the hidden brother, one thing that I realize is that our people are living in cyberspace.
Now listen, this like I'm saying, it's the audacity. He said our people are living in cyberspace and our people need to be held accountable. I got a lot of things I'm going to show you because I agree people do need to be held accountable. And he is definitely one of them that needs to be held accountable. But since he's going to go on and on about people living in cyberspace, this is coming from the dude who every other day is making videos about the same person. It's really every day if you count his Twitter post. Every single day he's posting, he's tweeting, he's making videos, he's going live, he's on Facebook. Every single day. Look at this. And listen, this is why this is important. Remember when I did a video going into that situation happening in Mississippi, right? And I was showing you that in Mississippi, which there's a, in the capital of Mississippi, Jackson, 83% black. The state usurped that power by creating an alternative court that doesn't answer to voters, so that they can insert the power within that city, which is 83% black, and usurp the power from who should be the power, which is the people. This is how white supremacy, how whiteism operates. Anytime that they see the potential of black influence being able to have autonomous power, they seek to undermine it. And that's exactly what happened in Mississippi. This is why you have seen over the years so many organizations and individuals with influence that are able to motivate people to do things that's in our best interest come under attack. This is why you see that. So what we see happening when we have these agent provocateurs and these cats who just take all their time to attack, because remember, they don't attack people who aren't doing anything. They don't attack people who don't have influence. They don't attack people who aren't being progressive and changing the status quo. So it's interesting that this dude posts this. He tweets this today. This is your boy. He says, white supremacy is not our biggest threat, nor is it Tether's, regardless of what Tariq Nasheed or FBA pushes. Our biggest threat is the gullible, quote unquote, black class. Mr. Tariq Nasheed took $1 million from FBA to finance a club, a reality show, and sell it back to FBA. Our biggest threat, the gullible. So just think about what that means right there. Because remember, I told you before, this dude does not go after any true threats to our people. He's never, and I'm going to show you in a minute, never went against the police for killing our people. He's saying the biggest threat is not white supremacy. So systematic racism that leads to the death by police, state-sponsored murder of our people on a daily basis is not the biggest threat. The systematic wealth gap is not the biggest problem. Over incarceration of our people is not our biggest problem. Lack of access to wealth and capital isn't our biggest problem. Our biggest problem is someone who raised $1 million for what he calls a club or a reality show. Even if that's the case, is that our biggest threat? Are there people out there negatively affected by the fact that Tariq Nasheed opened a museum in LA? Even if it was really a club, even if it was just a club, is that our biggest threat? We have the Rainbow Crew disproportionately targeting our people. We got the mass media telling our people that it's okay for a 12-year-old to have surgery to turn himself from a boy to a girl. That's not a threat. The threat is that there's people out there that's actually tangibly building things that is actually, I mean, listen, if he raised $1 million, which he did, that means the people were behind it. That means the people wanted that. And since the people aren't going against it to this day, those who actually contributed, to classify that or define that as a problem is asinine. He says our biggest threat is the gullible black class, which is pretty rich coming from somebody who has convinced people that despite the fact that documents like this exist, showing him to be a sex offender, he's convinced people that that's not what this means. It's plain black and white, clear as day. But then again, if he could convince people, if there are people out there, this is why I say the small bus shepherd, because if there's people out there who could see him get slapped on video and then watch him deny that he got slapped because he can't face the fact that he got slapped and didn't do anything because he's been telling you he's a tough guy for the past 5 years. So if he could convince people that they didn't really see him get slapped, if he can convince people that this right here doesn't mean what it says it does, doesn't mean what it says, Well, he's right. There is a gullible class of our people. But check this out, though. Let's go ahead and go through some. He's saying that, our people are just too much online, too much. We're in the box too much. Let's just scroll and see. It's the audacity. Look at this dude. Every few times a week, every day if you count Facebook and Twitter, every day this dude is obsessed with another man for simply motivating our people, and actually is changing the landscape politically and socially, helping push forward this reparation movement. There's actual discussions now being held in the political realm about reparations. There's been more progress in the reparations movement in the past, let's say 5 years, than we have had in the last 100 years, all because of grassroots efforts. All because now technology meets the people and it's able to mobilize people all over the country to get on the same sentiment and actually push on the streets. So it's actually going past. See, the internet is used as a medium to communicate. And with proper communication, there's mobilization on the streets. For some reason, there are people who are against that. I understand why Fox News is against reparations. I understand why the average white person who don't really understand is against reparations. I understand why white supremacists are against it. I don't understand why people who pose to be of our own cloth are against it, unless they have orders to go against it, which I'm going to show you evidence that is most likely the case here. And notice that one of his latest attacks now is that he likes to call everyone a rat or an agent, or they're hooked up with them folks. And this has only happened since, it's been more, people became more aware of his record, how he started and when he started Morris World TV, and his very oppy behavior. So what he does is called projection. See, people start getting, they started opening their eyes to his tactics, the things he does, the things that he has done, and all of a sudden he reverses it. So now he's not the sex offender. It might be Tariq Nasheed. Now he's not the agent. It might be Tariq Nasheed or even the elders that back him. But we can go back months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. Before that, his target was Malik Zulu Shabazz. He did months on that dude. He targets someone for a matter of months until he moves on to the next target. He only targets those who actually are doing things that are progressive. Malik Zulu Shabazz, no matter what you think of him, he brought back to light the fact that the murderer, or one who was involved in the murder of Emmett Till, is still out there. Taharka Bey undermined that because he does not care if justice prevails for such a heinous act that happened to our people. That's not of his concern. That's not his mission. That's not his assignment. In fact, look at this right here. Remember these 2 race soldiers who mass murdered? Well, instead of saying, you know, these guys are despicable, these guys are a threat, these are the kind of things that we need to be aware of so we won't get caught slipping. Instead, he makes a video finding a way to undermine the new Black Panther Party and other armed black organizations that he has undermined to the point to where he's neutralized the effectiveness of some of these organizations. He partly did neutralize it. I mean, he's put it out there. And then he turns around and blames them when one of theirs kill us and then, or kills multitudes of us. And then he turns around, of course, and says that the biggest threat is not white supremacy. So skinheads, race soldiers murdering us, that's not our biggest threat. The biggest threat is that there's a guy out there in LA who raised money from people who wanted to see a brick and mortar museum and delivered on it. That's the real big threat. But let's go ahead and see what he has to say. Let's go ahead and continue with the audacity of this dude. Let's just see.
You hear what I'm saying? Our people are literally living in this box. It's like everywhere I go in this box, people spend hours and hours and hours in this box talking about what they're supposed to do, what they're going to do, and what we ought to do.
Yes. Remember, this is this dude that's saying that. This is this dude right here that has the audacity to talk about people living in the box. This dude brought out someone who claimed to be Huey P. Newton's son just because he was going against Malik Zulu Shabazz. Of course, that's not his son. There's no evidence he ever had a son, but because he was going against Malik Zulu Shabazz, he brought him on. He brought on a white girl who claimed to be, let me see if we can find this one, who claimed to be Tupac's daughter, all because she was making negative posts against Malik Zulu Shabazz. He validated her, and she was batshit crazy. If you watch the videos, like, she was batshit crazy. And this dude, who has the sex offender on his record, it doesn't surprise me that now he's making videos in support of Dr. York. It doesn't surprise me that he no longer is going to cover the Brother Polite trial or speaks against anyone who have sex offenses. But let's continue. Let's see what else he got to say.
And this is on both sides of the line about this reparation talk. This is on both sides of the field when we talk about this identity talk. It's amazing how many hours is spent in this box. It blows me away. And so what that tells me is that most of these people are in this box fishing to grab something out of your pocket.
So this is coming from the guy who raised money for Morris Village that never materialized. This is coming from somebody who raised money for a news van that he claims he has and that he was getting it in order to go cover the Brother Polite trial. Never covered it, never spoke on him again, never showed the van. Has not materialized. This is coming from somebody who raised money to sue Tariq Nasheed and then took his family to Disneyland and didn't even secure a lawyer for the lawsuit. Yeah. The audacity. The audacity of this Negro.
Because there's so much time spent in here, it's like that's the only thing that you could be doing.
Now watch, he's going to turn around and ask for some donation.
Developing new techniques to scheme, throw an event a couple times a year, claim that it's an expo, claim that it's a pride event, claim that it's a social upheaval event, but in fact, it's only fishing.
Now, keep in mind, this is coming from somebody who does nothing in the community. He only does YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. He is not holding any events to teach people. He is not doing anything in his community there in Baltimore, which is plagued with high illiteracy rates, murder, drugs, crime. If he was really about liberation and about that work, he would be in the community. He couldn't be on YouTube every other day, on Twitter every single day, on YouTube, on Facebook every day, obsessed with other men. If he was doing that work, you would see at least one person of respectable status that would endorse him as a stand-up brother. You cannot find not one. See, that's the difference between him and the people he attacks. The people who he attacks have support from people we know and we trust and love and who have impeccable records. Every single person that he has attacked has grassroots support from our people who will stand up and validate or endorse the people he attacks. But no one ever endorses or stands up with or says, hey, yeah, Taharka Bey is solid. Oh, we've done some work together. Never. No one.
And so my thing is, with me here on Morris World TV, I don't want to get caught up in that. What I want to do is put it on the ground. Now, and I'm going to tell you, I can't put it on the ground by myself. There is no way I can put it on the ground by myself. What I mean, put it on the ground? I mean, with this research, I want to start going to these places where these people are accused of all this crazy stuff. I want to pull the file from there. Many times, right? Many times when you see people with these records that people try to out somebody, for instance, when somebody had to get my record, what they had to do is they had somebody in Baltimore to go to the prosecutor's office and they had to get it off the computer because Maryland don't put everything online.
So think what he just said. He's referring to records like this. There's more. I'm going to show you in a minute. He's referring to records like this. Yeah, people had to go and get those records. He's right about that. And those records exist. And there's a reason those records exist, and we'll get to that in a minute.
You understand what I'm saying? Maryland don't put everything online. So it's a guy here in Maryland, I know who it is. It's a guy who in Maryland got it for somebody associated with Inky, associated with the guy on the front of my video. And so he went to the courthouse and actually got it. Because a lot of this stuff is not online.
Well, what he really wants to say is a lot of his stuff has been expunged from his record. So you can expunge court records. You can't expunge police records. The caveat is court records are in big part composed of police records. So even though you can get your record expunged, the police records still exist. That's how this was able to be found in the first place. Because this is actually a police record right here. So court record, but only because of the fact that when this happened, he was registered, this showed up on this court record. The actual court record for what put him on here has yet to be found because his record's been expunged. But remember, in order to be a registered sex offender at any point in time, that means you had to be convicted, not accused. You had to be convicted. And it's interesting because when he first said he was going to sue Tariq Nasheed, I called cap. I said there's no way he's going to do that, because he knows that if he does that, or he should know if he does that, this record right here is going to have to come into play, because Tariq Nasheed is going to use this as a reason why he said what he said. And I've been privy to some information. It's really public if you know where to look. But there's people that send me information. I'm not going to show it, but I'll just say this. This document has been entered into the defamation case, which means a lawyer entered it on the record. So even though he's trying to convince people that this doesn't mean what it says it means, an actual attorney of law looked at this and said, oh yes, bam, sex offender. This is why I thought he wasn't going to, carry through with it, and he still may not. But anyway, I ain't going to get too much into that. Let's go ahead and get back to the audacity of his shenanigans.
A lot of people are not being exposed fully because we only have access to what's in this box. If we would have access to, on the ground, paying the clerk, give me the paperwork, present it to the people, I'm trying to tell you, we will roll these people right off the cliff.
It's a good idea.
So, a lot of things, and I looked at it with this Hidden Brothers series. There's a lot of little missing pieces. In the Grandmaster Jay situation, I didn't go live on that because there's a few missing pieces out of there. And so my thing is, family, listen, I'm going to tell you, don't take it from your family, because these people are not that important. You feel what I'm saying? They're not that important.
So in other words, what he's saying is, hey, you shouldn't, and the audience he's talking to, they were never going to put their money towards anything progressive anyway. But what he's in essence saying is, hey, don't give to these niggas that are actually doing real work, that are actually materializing and doing what they say they're going to do, following through with what they say they're going to do. Because this is all about money for him. He's saying, give me the money, because he's really just clout chasing. That's all it's about for him. Clout chasing and raising money, because he has no other skills or no other means of producing income outside of criminal activities. The government, meaning that, because he is autistic, he gets a check for that, and his kids and stuff like that who also have mental whatever. And grifting online. That's the only streams of income he has. He claims to be a handyman, but how much money can you be making as a handyman in Baltimore? For real. Let's just keep it a buck. It's not a job. It just means somebody calls him up. Hey, $20. Can you hang up this painting for me? Can you unplug my toilet? Whatever. I mean, it's a honest living. So what he's saying is, don't give your resources to these brothers who are actually organizing on the streets to get real things done, that you're actually seeing the results at the highest level. Nah, just give it to me so I can make more and more videos.
But it is important. It is important to address these people, because at the end of the day, these people are taking from the community the power.
Taking from the community. Listen, if somebody puts up a GoFundMe, a Kickstarter, some type of fundraiser to raise money for something, the only people that's going to put up on that are people who want to see that materialize. So people wanted to see the Hidden Colors series, the American Maroon, which is very good documentary. People wanted to see the museum come to fruition. They put up money and it appeared. I'm pretty sure people didn't put the rent money on there. See, that's the beauty of collective community response, is that everybody just has to chip in and we can get something done without exhausting any individual's resources.
is in the people. And the power is in the people is fueled by the finance that we're able to use to do the work to get around and get some things done. So the power is in the people. So because the power is in the people, the moment that you take the finances that could be used to elevate, to push us into another level, now you really compromise it where we could go as a people. We got.
So this is coming. Listen, this dude is upset about $1 million raised for a museum. We spend billions on fake hair, billions on Jordans, billions on frivolous entertainment, billions on things that do not advance our people, secure our history, or educate us. The priorities of this dude, it's you can't make this stuff up. But then again, this is the same dude who said white supremacy is not our biggest threat. Our biggest threat is that there's people out there that can mobilize our people. This sounds like an agent. This is what white supremacy would say. White supremacy is not the problem. It's really that you got these Negroes out here that are just rebel rousers, right? Is it a coincidence that we have these people who don't want critical race theory taught, who want to take out the true history of what happened to our people? They want to take these things out of classes, and then we have people who are trying to preserve our history, real history, with documentaries and a tangible building called a museum. In the same way the mainstream and politicians are going against critical race theory or teaching our real history, he's going against our grassroots efforts. It's not a coincidence.
A generation coming behind us. We got children coming from behind us. We got young people that is interested. But what we have people that's waiting to swindle them, you know? And so I'm saying this social media thing is not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. Let me throw this in there real quick. It's not going anywhere. So because it's not going anywhere, we may as well get prepared to deal with it from a proactive level. That's all I'm saying, you know? And if
that's all the new black media has been doing for the past 5-10 years. Grassroots level education, organization, and mobilization, and actually getting results. The people are actually flocking to the new black media because they want to see actual progress. There's only a small, relatively speaking, contingency or constituency of those who want to just sit and hate online. What he has done is he's tapped in to the loser class, the tether class, those who are coons and agents in against progression of our people. He has tapped into that.
You're interested, don't take from your family now. But if you're able to support financially, and I'm telling you straight up, please do not take from your family to give to nobody. Not me, not nobody. But if you're able to, I'm going to do right by you. We're going to go and get this done. And I'm saying, one of the things that I'm going to do, so I'm putting a link in here.
So look, he's putting the link in. So he just went through that whole thing about all we do is sit online and try to grift money. And then he's going to put his link in there and ask for donations. Someone who's not materialized anything. So he's saying, don't take your resources and maybe duplicate the model that we've seen in LA, where there's actual museum in place now, grassroots, no funding from government. Bill Cosby even gave to that museum. He's saying don't put your money into things like this. Just the same way that he was telling people don't do things like join these organizations that he was exposing, that were operating in the communities, doing the kind of work that no one else does. He wants to take you away from that to give to him so he could do things like put litigation on those who are actually doing real work or investigate. He's already done pulling Tariq Nasheed's record, and the only thing he found was a driver with no license. Now, when we pull his record, I'm going to show you again in a minute.
One of the first things I'm going to do, I'm going to deal with this guy has the ability to freestyle, call me a sexual predator. Are you serious? Are you serious? Has the ability to call moi, a sexual predator? Are you serious? Let me show you something, family. See, we're gonna take the gloves off just for a minute. See, you won't be happy. I'm gonna respond aggressively because that's not who I am. I never was that, and I never will be that. So I'm gonna respond aggressively.
Look at it's not us that's been calling him a sex offender. When you look at this paperwork from the state of Maryland, it very clearly says registered / which means and or lifetime sex offender, and there's a Y. See, there's only N's and Y's here, so we could assume it means yes or no. And in the question, registered and or lifetime sex offender, it says yes. There's no like, it's not a mystery. It's not complicated. It's very simple and straightforward. They checked his record, and on the record, it came up that he is or was a registered or lifetime sex offender. I've done mentoring with youth for years, social work, juvenile advocacy, and we had to get checked every year. We had to have our records checked every single year, and part of that record check was a sex offense registry check. Never did it come up with a Y. I moved into a gated community, and part of the community standard was you had to have a criminal record check, including sex offense registry. It came back as a N. And like I said, which I'm sure he's aware of now, paperwork that has been submitted in this defamation case by the opposing attorney. You're not going to tell me that the opposing attorney doesn't understand what the hell that paperwork means. But we're not going to get into that. It's all good. Let's go.
I mean, what you need to look at is the commonality in two people.
So here's where we go with the projection. Okay. Now he's going to project and imply that maybe Tariq Nasheed is a sex offender.
You know what I'm saying?
Even though there's no record of this, there's no.
But that's what we need to look at. You know what I'm saying? We need to look at.
So like, don't look at me, look over here. That's the tactic. Distraction. Misinformation. Misdirection.
One is your wife and one is your daughter. Which one is your wife? Which one is your daughter? That's what we need to look at. See, I'm not going to play with you. I'm different from the rest of the Moors. I'm different from the rest of the Moors that going intellectually let you disrespect me, and then I'm going to disrespect you. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm not going to disrespect you. No, I'm not going to disrespect you. I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to try the truth. Now I want to know which one is your daughter and which one is your wife. See, because you're not going to say this about me and I'm not going to respond. I'm going to respond aggressively. Aggressively. I'm talking about all bets is off when you say that I've done something that I haven't done. All bets is off. So you can get mad now. Anybody that don't like it, get mad now. And exit on your way out the door. Exit your way on the door, out the door. Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna live with this name that you put on me. How can you sit up there and say that recklessly? You're reckless with that. How you gonna do it? Are you for real? You for real? That's what you gonna do. That's what we doing. That's what we doing. That's what we doing. Okay.
Listen, if this defamation case actually goes before a judge and jury, he's not going to be able to cap about what this means. Let's pull it. Let's see. He's not going to be able to cap in a courtroom that this doesn't mean what it says. He's not going to be able to do that. That's why I'm still, even though apparently he did actually file the lawsuit, I'm still not convinced he's going to follow through. He hasn't even got a lawyer yet. I'm not convinced he's going to follow through because he understands that once this goes to court and he starts saying, hey, well, Tariq was saying this and saying that and saying this, Tariq's response is going to be, well, that's because of this, this, and this. He's not going to be able to tell the court what he's told his listeners. It doesn't work like that.
I see. That's what we doing. All right, since that's what we doing. That's what we doing. You call somebody an offender? Huh? What kind of offender are you? What kind of offender are you? Huh? What? Are you serious? Are you serious? Let's talk about some offense.
That's just a weird thing. I don't know who that person is, but from this angle, that just looks like a picture. That could be his daughter, his niece. It could be an of age woman. It could be any of those things. But what it's not is this. See, this is what it's not.
See, you haven't been caught. You haven't been prosecuted.
See, now if you listen, if you know how to read energy or just have any type of discernment, you can kind of tell where he was going with that. It's like he caught himself, but he was just going to say, you just haven't been caught yet, like me, or, you know what I mean? You haven't been caught like me. That's kind of what it sounded like he was kind of going with that. But he realized what it sounded like, and he started to kind of, you haven't been caught. Because he has been caught. Because like I said, you don't get this unless you have been not just accused, not alleged, you have to be convicted for this to show up on your record. Convicted. Now, of course, criminal records can be expunged. Police records, not so much. And this, yeah, okay. So just because, that it could have been expunged from his record, doesn't mean it's not going to show up as a check at the time that this particular case was caught. When he caught this case. But we'll get to that later.
And the reason why you haven't been prosecuted is because you most likely are protected.
Or And here's something that you obviously can't understand, because you know you have been protected. You have definitely been protected. We're going to get into that in a minute. Matter of fact, let's get into it right now. See, he's assuming that the reason why Tariq Nasheed doesn't have a sex offense on his record is because he hasn't been caught. Because in his mind, everyone does it. So he just hasn't been caught because he's protected. But now let's look at this. Look at this. This is actually that same document that this is the full document of that sex offense, what has him on the sex offense registry, the one that, you know, where it shows he's on the sex offense registry, I should say. Mr. Johnson failed to contact the alternative sentencing program. So he already has alternative sentencing and he didn't even contact them in time. Failed to report to the work site to complete the hours. No further contact with the offender, and the court ordered due date has since expired. So in other words, he had a certain parameters of things that he can do, the things that he has to do in order to get this sweetheart deal. He didn't even comply with that. Yet somehow, even though he's not even in compliance, and he asked the court to modify the sentence, look at this, even though he didn't comply with what he was supposed to comply with. Check this out. Now, if you've ever been in a court situation where you were given the opportunity to take a plea bargain for a lesser charge, and you reject that plea bargain and take it to trial and you're found guilty, which happened here, this is something that you've never seen. Second degree assault can land you in prison. That is a felony. He pled not guilty. That means he said, no, I'm not going to take the plea. I'm going to take it to trial. So he took it to trial, and in trial, he was found guilty. And for some reason, they only gave him 6 months and suspended all of it. First of all, to only get 6 months for assault second degree is crazy. But then to get it all suspended, you want to talk about protected, got it suspended. Look at this, probation for 1 year, unsupervised, meaning you don't even have to call into your probation officer. You don't have to come take a P test. You don't have to do none of that. All you have to do is stay out there and don't do anything, and probably do whatever else needs to be done for that sweetheart deal. This is the 24 hours that he didn't complete. Look at this, criminal fee 0. They didn't even give him any type of fees after being found guilty. Only thing he had to pay was what, $57. $57, no time, unsupervised probation. Complete 24 hours of community service, which you can see he didn't do. And somehow he remained out of jail. And this is somebody who's already been convicted of robberies, already been to prison, which he only did less than half of the time he was supposed to do, because he wrote a letter to the judge. And somehow the judge was like, okay. And understand that at the time that this case was dissolved, less than a week later is when he started Morris World TV. So you talk about being protected. Probation unsupervised. No jail time, no court fines, no court criminal fines, only $57. That is incredible, y'all. That is unheard of, unless you're protected by those people. See, this is the same case. So this case wasn't what put him on the registry. This case, just when he caught this case, he was on the registry, so it's reflected on this record. That's why you see that right there, right? But this dude signed it. It's his signature. Anyway, let's get back to what he's talking about. What were you talking about? Oh, hold on, we're not done. Hold on, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's go.
You haven't been prosecuted. You see what I'm saying? That don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing. We know what you're talking about. Fam, we gotta shut this guy down. We gotta shut this guy down. This guy gotta be shut down.
He's just obsessed. We have to shut this guy down. Who needs this? Who needs Tariq Nasheed shut down so bad? Who out there is making claims that Tariq Nasheed did something so terrible to them or the community that he needs to be shut down? Why does he need to be shut down? Who would actually benefit from him being shut down? These are the kind of questions you have to ask yourself. Who would benefit? Remember, this dude is the one that's saying white supremacy is not our biggest threat. White supremacy is responsible for the murder of over 100 million of our people, incarcerating millions of our people, Jim Crow, redlining, disenfranchising politically and economically. Not the biggest threat. No, a bigger threat is this dude he has a hidden history museum. That's a threat. Who does that sound like?
In our community, right? In our community, we are an exclusive group. Whether we call ourselves FBA, whether we go by Moor, whether we go by Hebrew, whether we go by African American, Afro American, whatever we choose to go by and it sits right with us, we are an exclusive group. But being an exclusive group does not give you the right to disrespect, to humiliate, and to undermine other unified attempts with our people around the globe.
So I believe he's referring to Pan-Africanism. Look, and you could, saying it's a fair argument if you don't like the fact that, the FBA movement is distancing themselves or ourselves from Pan-Africanism. I don't hate or have any, ill will towards people who are of the Pan-African ideology. In fact, I would partially consider myself Pan-African, but I understand that black nationalism is the first order before we can actually have an effective Pan-Africanism. And I also understand that we have reached that olive branch out for over 100 years now. 100 years we have tried to do that, only to be met with undermining from the ones who we thought were our brothers. So at this point, we're saying, okay, whatever, then we're just going to do us. We're going to do us. And those of you from the, Caribbean or from the continent that are serious and riders, and they exist, yes, we still fuck with you. But you need to clean house the same way we clean house. The same way we clean house from coons like this and those who come against us and those who are used against us, you need to do the same, because there's too many coming from the Caribbean and from the motherland that are going against us, trying to undermine our movement or showing vitriol and hate and trolling us. And we're saying we're done with that.
It doesn't give you the right to do that. There is no person on the planet Earth that should be so vile and disrespectful, not only to our women, but here in America, but to our women abroad, around the globe. Because if you can disrespect a woman in the way that I see that this brother disrespect women, there is no way that he can guide and lead a people towards reparation, liberation of any kind.
Ooh, the audacity.
There is no way.
Yeah.
Let's start it off.
Let's start it off.
Listen to how this guy talks. If any woman that supports this guy is insane.
Okay.
Is insane.
And she stole $80, and that hurt me. So that was it. That was the only time. But other than that, no. Your grandmother don't count. That was my hoe, and she doesn't count. She was
my grandmother. Okay, so my grandmother was your hoe, correct?
Yeah, she was on a hoe.
And she was Eritrean. Is that what you're saying?
She was your grandmother.
So here is a video that I found where he's talking to a sister from Africa. I don't know what the beef is. It doesn't make a difference. But to just hear him treat this woman's family with straight disdain. Her family is not in the conversation. She is from Ethiopia. I don't know the history behind their back and forth.
Okay, I know the history behind their back and forth. The history is that lady's a troll, and she always calls trolling disrespecting FBA. And you can say, hey, that's petty of Tariq, it's disrespectful, it's rude, it's all of that. That's cool. That's fair. But it's all fair in war. It's all fair when you are in combat, even intellectual combat with people who are trying to undermine us. But if women should not respect Tariq Nasheed because he goes back and forth with trolls, and he's a little bit better at capping or roasting them, then what should women think about? Well, of course, this. But also this. Once again, this is part of the record of Toronto Antonio Johnson, also known as Taharka Bey. And this is something that his ex, who I believe is deceased now, protection order that she filed, wants relief for herself and her minor child because he has been shoving, threatening, having threats of violence. And here's what she said. The respondent, speaking of Toronto, has threatened me by saying that he will hurt me if we aren't together. So if she leaves him, he will hurt her. And if I be with someone else, he has come in my home through the window, breaking and entering, because I wouldn't let him in the house. So he's talking about a verbal sparring that went on the internet. But in real life, this dude is breaking into people's house and threatening to hurt them if they leave him in front of the kids. He tried to take my son from me by threatening to go to my mother's house. He verbally and mentally abuses my children and myself. This is the words of a woman who was filing a protection order against Taharka Bey. By cursing at me, threatening me, and shoving me in front of them. So he's verbally abusing them. He's putting his hands on their mother in front of them, threatening to hurt them, hurt her if she leaves him. And by telling them, listen, he's telling the kids that he will hurt me if I get a new friend. I feel he is a danger to all of us because he sneaks around the house and tried to kick in the door. And I know he has a criminal record. So this is her trying to protect herself and two babies. One of them being Toronto Johnson Jr., who is the one who just got evicted not too long ago because he couldn't pay the rent because he decided to stay in the home where his mother died rather than going to live with his father. He would rather stay in the home and struggle by himself in the same home his mother died than to go live with his dad. But he's the one that's saying, he's the one that has the audacity to be like, hey, no women should be supporting Tariq Nasheed because listen how he talks to women. But this is this dude. Listen, choked me, punched me and put bruises on my arms from grabbing. This is the dude that's telling you you're crazy if you support Tariq Nasheed and you're a woman. Okay.
But just listen to this foul.
So it didn't work out.
So you still don't know you still don't know where Djibouti is located, and is that what you're saying? Last time I spoke to you, I told you I was from Djibouti. You didn't even know where the fuck that was, but you're wearing a suit and tie and you're acting all educated, writing all these fake books.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Well,
stealing from other people's material, right,
No.
and then claiming it as yourself. You know that's an infringement of copyright. Do you have any cases impeding against you for stealing people's information and using it as yourself, Mr. Tariq Nasheed?
The only
Do you know
material,
that did you, huh?
The only material that I'm accused of taking is your grandmother's musty burqa. It's her material.
He's going to say the only material that I took from you is your grandmother musty burqa.
Listen, that's cold-blooded, man. I ain't gonna lie. That is. I understand if people don't like that. But if you understand the nature and the history of these two, this lady calls in all the time trolling. All the time. Disrespectful as hell, trolling. And that's just part of how they get down. And she's not truly offended because she's a troll. And this is just what she does. They go back and forth. You may not like it. It just is what it is. But what it isn't is this. What it isn't is this. Let's continue. January 21st, Mr. Johnson had my children while I went away for the weekend. When I went to his apartment to pick up my sons, we began to argue over some videotapes that I let him borrow. In other words, he didn't even want to give back what he borrowed. Mr. Johnson stated that if I did not get my sons and leave, that he would hit me in front of them. When I turned to get my son's jacket, he punched me in the face and I fell. Upon my falling, he punched me again, kicked me, and proceeded to drag me out of his apartment. But he's telling you that any woman that supports Tariq Nasheed is the problem. Okay.
How disrespectful is that? How disrespectful is that? What woman would support somebody like this?
Right. Exactly. What woman would support someone like this? Mental injury of a child, kicking, punching, shoving. What woman would support someone like that? That's a good question, Taharka. Very good question.
Mickey Dillard, why would you support something like this?
Now, here's the tactic he always likes to use. He tries to pit people against each other, but it's not going to work. He tried to do that with Professor James Smalls. When that didn't work, then he started attacking Professor James Smalls. Like I'm saying, it's the audacity, because he's talking about some back and forth on YouTube, and he has a record of kicking, punching, shoving, dragging, beating women and children. Matter of fact, let's look at this real quick. Let's continue. This is more. Look at this. More. Get it? Child abuse. This is 2014. That's not that long ago. Child abuse. There's a plethora of different cases that this dude has caught, which he didn't really do time for. Here's more. More. DVs. Protection order, DVs, whatever this stuff is. This dude has record from 91 to 2016. Record after record, case after case. DVs. Child abuse. This is him, right? That's his birthday. March 73. Look at this dude, man. DV. No real jail time. Which is interesting, because if we go back and we look, since he likes to call people agents, and if we go back and we remember how agents are flipped, and let's go back to Judas and the Black Messiah. This was William O'Neill, based on a true story. And remember, this is what happened to, this is how they flipped this guy to be an agent to eventually set up Black Panther Party member Fred Hampton. This is a movie, but it's based on a true story. Here's what happens. He got pulled over. He did a crime, got pulled over. Then this.
Special Agent Mitchell, FBI. Almost as spiffy as yours. Tell me, why the badge? Why not just use a knife or a gun like a normal car thief?
Remember, he also has a record of stealing cars, by the way.
Badge is scarier than a gun.
Do you mind explaining that for me?
Any nigga on the streets can get a gun. Sir? A badge is like you got the whole damn army behind you.
I better hold on to this then. Were you upset when Dr. King was murdered?
I don't know.
So if you didn't hear that, he said, were you upset when Dr. King was murdered? The response was, I don't know. See, that's how they vet you to see if you really have a loyalty towards your people before they try to flip you. So at that time, you know, Dr. King was murdered. The whole country was up in flames, and he's, you know, he's asking, hey, how'd you feel about that? Did you, you know, do you side with this dude? Are you loyal to your people? Can we use you against your people? Which makes this that much more revealing when you think about it. White supremacy is not our biggest threat. This is Taharka Bey.
To be honest.
A little bit.
What about Malcolm X?
I never thought about all that.
About it. You're looking at 18 months for the stolen car and 5 years for impersonating a federal officer. Or you can go home.
There you have it. That's how they flip agents or assets. You get caught with doing a crime. Hey, you're going to do a lot of time. You're going to do a lot of time. Look at your record. You're going to do a lot of time, Mr. Johnson. You're going to do a lot of time. A lot of time. All this stuff can come out. All this stuff You got time on your hands, or you could just go home. So it's not a coincidence that that case that he caught, that he got all of his time suspended, only $57 in fees and fines, unsupervised probation. It's no coincidence that he starts Morris World TV a week later, and that he puts stuff like this and never goes against the police who kill us, white supremacy in general. Matter of fact, he says it's not even the biggest threat. So who's the agent? Good question. I'll let you think about that.
Sister Vicky Dillon. Sister Vicky Dillon. And you know I like you. I thought you was cool until I really got to listening to Tariq Nasheed. I wonder why, Sister Vicky, why would you support something like this? Why? You shouldn't be caught around this guy. It's just a rhetorical question. I like sisters who step up to the front. I like sisters who put it all on the line.
So what he's attempting to do here is, if possible, create some type of rift between Sister Vicky Dillard and Tariq Nasheed. It's not going to work, but he's trying. I like you. He did the same thing with Corey Holcomb. And when that didn't work, then he attacked Corey Holcomb. He did the same thing with Professor James Small. He does the same thing over and over. When it doesn't work, then he'll attack them. He doesn't care. You know, he's attacked me plenty of times. He's threatened me. Right? He's even had the audacity. Like, this is how desperate this dude is getting. This is why I don't really want to keep doing these videos. I mean, I'm gonna do the one about the second part of COINTELPRO, just so I could expose some of his cronies who also are sex offenders, who also have criminal records up the ass, who don't do time. But he's so desperate. Like, he's really trying to imply Tariq Nasheed has something to do with Nipsey Hussle's demise, which is a dangerous game to be playing if you're going to be going to LA, honestly. But he's that desperate because he has to point the finger elsewhere so you don't focus on him and what he's hiding in his closet. Because his assignment is to disrupt, dismantle, delegitimize, undermine, character assassinate, misdirect, miseducate, misinformation. That is his agenda. That's his assignment. That's why white supremacy is not the biggest threat. It's just those Negroes that are rebel rousing out there in the streets. He sounds like a fucking agent. That's what Fox News says. No, white supremacy doesn't exist. It's not a problem. What about what's going on in Chicago? What about that's what they did. Martin Luther King was a threat. Malcolm X was a threat. Fred Hampton was a threat. The Black Panthers was a threat. The MOVE organization was a threat. The NOI was a threat. All of our freedom fighters were a threat and had to be neutralized and attacked. And that's exactly the cloth that he operates in. Division, misinformation, attack those who are actually putting in work on our behalf. It's not the people coming against Brother Tariq or any of these people that I've just named. It's the government. Government.
But when you start to associate with those who have no respect for your kind, I got to start to question you. I got to start to question you. When you align yourself with one that has no self-respect, has no respect for you or your kind, now I have to question you. And that goes for anybody who flocks with this character. I have to question you. Is the bag for commentary on a video more important than how he disrespect women?
Disrespecting women, huh? He's talking about disrespecting women. Hold up. Before we listen to that, let's check this out real quick. Hold up. Oh no, he was already there. Continued. The respondent, very mentally and emotionally abusive. He curses and curses me out in front of my children. This is the guy he won't curse on TV or on his show, but to the kids and to the women who he abuses, he has no problem doing that. He says he doesn't have to go or leave my house. He is an abusive alcoholic who is in denial and has become violent with me and my property in front of my children. This is the dude who's talking about, how could you support this guy? And he doesn't respect women. This is him. It's the audacity, right? The audacity. You got multiple women following police protection orders for them and their children against who they claim beats them. He has child abuse. I already showed you when he beat up his son, who was only like 8 at the time. But he has the audacity to sit up here and say, how could you, Vicky Dillard, support this guy? He doesn't respect women.
What made you so angry? Hold on, Dr. Abbas. I'm trying to find out what made you so angry for you as a grown-ass man who is a father to speak on my grandmother. Was it the fact that the baby mother or your wife is a stripper? Or is it the fact that you cheated on her recently and then your sex tape is in the timeline? Is it the fact that Tara Perry is dragging you and exposing you for it? You cheated on her or your wife is a stripper? My grandmother. Was it the fact that the baby mother or your wife is a stripper? Or is it the fact that you cheated on her recently and then your sex tape is in the timeline? Is it the fact that Tara Perry is dragging you and exposing you for it? My grandmother. Was it the fact that
How can he lead and guide people to reparations? He doesn't even have no type of compassion.
So like I said, man, it's the audacity. When you really think about it, the fact that he is the moral standard, he is the moral compass, he is the one that's qualified to lead a movement or to criticize, even though his record shows you. It's not even just his record, because the sex offense, right? The sex offense that's on his record to this day. And when you understand what sex offenses are, then you understand that what he did with Napa is a sex offense. By definition, revenge porn is a sex offense. And he took those pornographic images that were shared privately. He took them from the disgruntled man who sent them to him, monetized them, and put them out on display in order to ridicule her. That is a sex offense. So he still commits sex offenses. So if you think that it's not possible, or that this is an error, keep in mind that he still commits sex offenses to this day. But white supremacy ain't the problem though. Anyway, that's it, man. I didn't want to be this long, but yo, make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff if you haven't already. Part 2 of COINTELPRO Here and Now, or Now and Then. I don't know if I'm gonna do it tonight. I don't know if I'm gonna do it tomorrow. I might. If y'all hit this video up enough and you request it, I will do it, because there is more stuff that does need to be exposed. But then we got to get away from this. Like I said, I really don't believe that he's gonna want to really pursue the lawsuit, because too much is going to come out that he can't hide from, and that he can't cap, and he can't, tell the courts the same thing he's told other people. But there's a lot unfolding with that. I don't even want to bring up everything with that, because I'm gonna let the time go ahead and let it unfold a little bit, and I don't want to prematurely bring certain things, even though it's public record. I don't want to prematurely bring certain things to the surface. But it is what it is. Jay Dizzle, Liberation Minded Media. Peace.